Tonight, fears that limiting cars is limiting access to a popular Toronto park.
We feel that the city has declared war on families, seniors, dog owners, visitors to the zoo.
Protesting new changes restricting vehicles and parking. We'll take you to High Park to share their concerns, the counter-protests they encountered, and we'll tell you how the city is defending the move.
Now they're running around cutting down all the branches. Well, it's a little late.
Plus, anger at another popular park, why some are critical of today's pruning at Trinity Bellwoods after a woman died from a falling tree branch last week.
It's definitely a shock, an absolute shock.
And the nightmare before the nuptials. We're tracking the fallout after a well-known company in Toronto's wedding industry files for bankruptcy. Good evening, I'm Chris Glover. We begin tonight with a confrontation that played out at High Park. This week, the city started restricting vehicles and parking at the popular spot after it says it conducted extensive public consultations. Tonight, protesters against the move were shouted down by others who are in support of fewer cars. Anam Khan has our top story tonight.
High Park for all!
Many gathered at the Bloor Street entrance of High Park to voice their disapproval with the city as it begins restricting cars in the park starting this weekend. They chanted and held signs, and things got heated when a counter-protest took place. One woman blocked the road, stopping incoming traffic. Many of the people protesting at High Park have been coming here for decades. Even though the city started public consultations in 2021, some say they were not consulted well enough about the coming changes.
This was all done behind our backs, and it's disgusting. It's not democracy. Can you just imagine families with small children or elderly people with mobility issues having to park blocks away, walk those blocks, cross busy streets just to get to the park entrance?
We feel that the city has declared war on families, seniors, dog owners, visitors to the zoo, visitors to the facilities here, and visitors to the restaurant.
Starting this Saturday, cars will not be allowed on weekends, and more than half of the park's 560 parking spaces will be eliminated. The West Road and parts of Colborne Lodge Drive will be car-free at all times. The main entrance for vehicles will be at Parkside Drive and High Park Boulevard. It's part of the city's revitalization strategy to remove more cars and build new bike lanes. Councillor Gord Perks has been a long champion of the new changes. He wasn't at the rally.
In any group of people, there are going to be some who don't want change, and that's been the case with this. But the overwhelming majority of the 10,000 people that were consulted on this are in favor of moving High Park to make it car-free.
But many who are in the park are concerned about what this means for sports.
That this is really going to hurt. It's really going to affect the way people can participate in our league, and I just find that to be really sad. I think that the city might think they've hit a home run here, but I think that there's a swing and miss.
500 kids play baseball at the park in the summer, and some worry kids will have to carry a lot of sports equipment without cars.
We have worked really hard here to build a great league. This is our 71st season in the park, and people come back over and over, season and season again.
Anam Khan, CBC News, Toronto.
Taking you now to another popular park under scrutiny tonight. City crews are conducting a blitz treatment at Trinity Bellwoods Park, pruning back trees after a branch struck and killed a woman there last week. But as Dale Manukduk reports, some believe the move is strictly reactionary and too late.
Caution, trees are coming down. That's because there is a reason to worry. Parts of the beautiful tree canopy pose a real threat. Last week, 71-year-old Pari Nadimi was hit by a falling tree branch in Trinity Bellwoods Park, resulting in a brain injury that she died from on Thursday.
I think it's a bit challenging to be present on a daily walk and looking up. It's not something you should have to think about.
And you see them out here, now they're running around cutting down all the branches. Well, it's a little late. It's like closing the barn doors after the cows have gotten out.
The tree that broke last week has since been removed, and city staff continue to perform a visual assessment of trees located in high-use areas of the park.
To also check in on how the maintenance is going and to make sure that we are reviewing our practices around tree maintenance to ensure that our parks are safe for all users.
In a park like this in downtown Toronto, people are underneath the trees all the time. I mean, that's where people go, right?
This arborist is not with the city but has 20 years experience. Last week he noticed issues with some trees that have since been addressed.
A good, preventative measure to prune back that branch. This is going to be the side of the tree where there's much higher risk, so that's what they're trying to do, is mitigate that risk. So definitely a good call in this case.
The city says it performs inspections of more than 5 million trees throughout the year. And despite those efforts, incidents like the one last week can happen even with healthy trees. Urban trees in high-traffic parks like Trinity Bellwoods are more susceptible to failure. People are constantly walking around them, biking on constructed pathways, even motor vehicles driving nearby. That causes the soil to compact, making it challenging for water and oxygen to get to the roots, resulting in weaker trees. The death of Pari Nadimi is what sparked the express maintenance here at Trinity Bellwoods, but there was also a man in 2016 who also died in the park from a fallen branch, so the work being done here very critical. Tate Sala, the arborist we heard from, says that the visual assessment is just the first step in the process, and once city staff have identified high priority trees, they'll need to use equipment to further assess the risk. Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
At Trinity Bellwoods and 26 other parks, drinking alcohol was officially legal today. People do drink openly already at many city-run parks, but making it legal is part of a pilot project to test out how that would change things. Tyler Cheese has more on how the first day of the pilot went.
Yesterday, it would have been illegal to crack open a beer here in Dufferin Grove Park, but today, well, cheers.
Today, finally, August the 2nd, Torontonians are able to drink responsibly in 27 of our city's parks.
Whether or not to allow drinking in city parks has been a debate at City Hall for years. But earlier this year, a new approach was proposed, a pilot program to test out the idea.
The criteria included things such as park size, had to have access to washrooms, access to water drinking fountains, access to transit, and so many more criteria that would guarantee enjoyment would continue.
While the pilot is brand new, many of the park goers we spoke with say legalization won't make much of a difference given that people have been illegally drinking in parks for years.
People are clearly drinking. They're not particularly rowdy, they're not abusive, they just seem to be having a good time.
But others are concerned that city-sanctioned drinking will lead to bad behavior.
To encourage people to come to, our park, for all of us who live around here, it's terrible. I mean, it's going to mean that people then again feel this sort of freedom to misbehave.
What do you do in a drinking zone? You continue to drink. So you probably take more than you should to these locations, and you consume more than you should. And that is the risk.
City staff say bylaw enforcement officers will be out in parks to enforce the rules, but they'll be taking an education-first approach.
We will not be asking for ID. We will not be carrying breathalyzers. What we are looking for is people to act responsibly.
So the city's placed these signs in all of the pilot parks outlining all of the rules and regulations of the program. Those rules include not being able to drink within 2 meters of park amenities such as playgrounds, wading pools, and dog parks.
Park users are still expected to follow all existing laws and bylaws, including the rules against littering.
Over the course of the pilot, data will be collected that the city says will help council decide whether or not to keep the program going in the future. Tyler Cheese, CBC News, Toronto.
23 degrees tonight. There's a chance of showers and a risk of thunderstorm overnight. Ethan Williams joins us with a first look at our forecast. And Ethan, we are in a bit of a changing period of weather here.
Well, Chris, after a couple of days of really comfortable conditions where we saw basically those temperatures and humidex values right next to each other, we saw the humidity build back a little bit today, and we're going to continue to see that into tomorrow as well. And with that humidity building in and the humidex rising, likely mean that we're going to be seeing some storms to end the week, especially tomorrow. We're keeping our eye on a severe threat, but then a pretty comfortable long weekend as temperatures and humidex values start to come down a bit. This afternoon, we were dominated by high pressure still through much of southern Ontario, so not seeing a whole lot in terms of wind gusts. Through the night tonight, we could see some showers and storms, though, and those still could be lingering by the time we get to around 7 a.m. Likely getting some clearing as we head toward the noon hour, but starting to warm up. And then a second round of storms, which could be severe, moving in as we head through the afternoon for your drive home, as those temperatures get close to 30 and the humidex values into the mid-30s. Just how severe things are going to get and the timing of those storms, I'll let you know coming up.
All right, Ethan, we will check in with you in a little bit. We have an update tonight on one of our top stories from last week. Police have now identified a second suspect in connection with that deadly shooting at Sherbourne and Shooter. 36-year-old Mohammed Ahmed was gunned down in a car in the downtown area last Tuesday in what police are calling a targeted killing. Last week, detectives said they were looking for a 34-year-old man in connection with Ahmed's killing. Today, they say they're also looking for 27-year-old Yasser Mohammed. Both men are wanted on first-degree murder charges. In provincial political news, the Ontario government is spending billions of dollars less than planned so far this year. According to the province's financial watchdog, one big area that the government is spending less than is in health.
There was about $1.2 billion lower spending in the COVID-19 response program. And so that's less COVID testing, less the vaccine rollout was launched the previous year. So it's those kind of factors.
Overall, the Financial Accountability Office says government spending is about $7 billion less than planned this year. Along with less spending in health, spending was also down in post-secondary education and children and social services. The finance critic for the Ontario Liberal Party calling the Ford government fiscally irresponsible for underspending in healthcare, education, and infrastructure. Taking you now east of Toronto to Pickering, where a major facelift is coming for the city. Officials announcing today ambitious plans to build a new entirely walkable downtown. And the hope is not only to inject vibrancy in the area, but also to add much needed housing. Greg Ross has more.
Over the next decade, we're going to see a massive transformation of this site.
Gavin Chung is the president of Center Court Developments, the company overseeing the redevelopment of the 55-acre space that surrounds the Pickering Town Center. He says the plan is to create a new downtown area for the city, and that starts with bringing people to the area.
We see 6,000 condominium residences coming online, servicing the growth of population that's expected into the city of Pickering.
As many as 10 new condo buildings, as tall as 55 stories, all within walking distance of GO Transit. In addition to that, new municipal buildings for the city.
One of the first phases will be a civic center right here where we're standing, which will have a plaza that will have a water feature similar to Nathan Phillips Square, but better. And it'll be a skating rink in the wintertime.
Mayor Kevin Ash says the plans also include a seniors and youth center, a performing arts center, and a community library.
The new public park will connect the new civic facilities with the shopping center.
The hope is that this will save the mall, which has struggled to attract shoppers and retail partners.
Retail is struggling on one hand, and we're struggling with housing on the other hand. So the best use of land is to really come up with those mixed-use, complete communities concepts like this one.
This urban planner says this will also go a long way in helping Pickering meet its targets set forth by the province to create new housing by 2033.
The province had this really ambitious target of 1.5 million across Ontario, and they also gave specific targets for each municipality. For the case of Pickering, 13,000. So if we're talking about 6,000 over the decade, we're already reaching about 50% of that target. So that's a pretty big step.
The plan is to have a completely walkable downtown core with the mall as the centerpiece. Construction on the first phase of redevelopment is expected to begin in the fall. The entire project is expected to be completed sometime in the next decade. Greg Ross, CBC News, Pickering.
News coming out of Ottawa today being talked about right around the world. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and his wife, Sophie Gregoire Trudeau, today announcing they are separating, and they made it public on their separate social media accounts, asking for privacy for themselves and their 3 children. The couple has been married for 18 years. Gregoire has not traveled with the Prime Minister on official trips recently, and they haven't been seen together since July 1st. Despite the separation, they are planning to go on a family vacation next week. Heartbreak and stress for a number of couples in Toronto who are just learning the venue they booked for their wedding day has shut down without notice. Farah Morelli spent the day talking to brides now scrambling weeks before their big day.
What do you think? This is not where Emma Rockburn expected to be 6 weeks before her wedding day, scoping out a brand new venue. She found out on social media last night Berkeley Events, who she'd signed an agreement with a year ago, was closing.
It's definitely a shock, an absolute shock.
Just days ago, she met the coordinator. Now, she can't get a hold of anyone.
We're around $22,000 to $25,000 that we are out of pocket. And now we have to pivot and pay that all over again. So as two, young professionals in this economy, it's a hard pill to swallow.
Rockburn isn't alone.
Stressed, saddened.
Bridget Callahan's wedding was booked for October 13th at a Berkeley venue. Today, radio silence from the company.
Wondering if we are going to be getting the deposit back or any funds at all, kind of thing. And it's kind of just very stressful not knowing at all.
I'm standing right now in the Heritage Berkeley Church.
On its website, Berkeley Events says it operates 3 venues in downtown Toronto, including this church. Today, padlocks on the gates of that church. No one from the company returned CBC's messages, and documents show the company went into receivership 2 days ago. A VP at the company posted online saying, "I'm deeply upset and sad to hear about the sudden closure of Berkeley Events. I was blindsided to hear about the financial issues facing our parent company. To everyone with a booked event, I share your shock and disappointment. We are very much looking forward to hosting you."
We did hear of a few venues in the same predicament happening during COVID, of course, but not since COVID had stopped or lessened.
This wedding planner was shocked to hear about Berkeley Events' fate, given most companies saw a post-COVID boom.
So for those couples that are getting married in the next few weeks that we're going to be at Berkeley, it is going to be a little bit difficult, but I think that our community will definitely be able to help out in any way that they can.
Rockburn has already received offers of help, but it's still been an emotional day.
As a bride, you envision your wedding multiple times a day, right? To every little detail of what song am I going to walk down to? What is my hair going to look like? What is the response of my partner going to be when I walk down the aisle at this one venue? And everything revolves around the venue. So to find out at about 10 o'clock at night on my own, having no communication from the venue, obviously nobody works there anymore, has just been honestly heartbreaking.
That heartbreak now channeled into persistence. She's already contacted 100 venues and is still optimistic. Farah Morelli, CBC News, Toronto.
Ethan's back now with a look at the extended forecast. And Ethan, let's get back to that changing weather picture.
Well, Chris, after a quiet few days here, things getting a little bit more unsettled tomorrow. This is valid noon tomorrow. This is the thunderstorm outlook, a level 2 out of 4 risk for storms with pretty strong winds, some large hail and heavy rain. GTA eastward, I think, is where we're going to see kind of the crux of those storms develop. And I'll take you through the timing here. This high pressure area beginning to move out of southern Ontario tonight. First band of showers and storms moving through overnight tonight with this warm front moving in. A little bit of clearing as we head through the noon hour tomorrow in the early afternoon, but then this cold front moves through tomorrow afternoon, and that's when we could start to see those more severe storms start to take shape. Likely dying down in the overnight hours, but still left with some spotty showers and cloud cover, especially as we start to head into tomorrow morning. Now, just how much rain are we talking? Going to be very dependent on where we see those thunderstorms. But again, I think north and east of the GTA is where we're going to see the highest amounts, maybe 10 to 20 millimeters. But keep in mind, higher amounts in thunderstorms possible. Mid to upper teens, seasonal conditions for us tonight as those showers and storms move in. Southwestern Ontario, I think you're going to avoid the storms for the most part. Lows near 20 degrees tonight. And then tomorrow, humidex creeping back into that 30 to 35 range. Wind gusts GTA eastward at times could be in that 40 to 50 range as those storms start to move in. Looking for mid to upper 20s, close to 30 degrees tomorrow in the GTA. with a humidex factor in the mid-30s. And then Friday, we could also see some showers and storms again. Starting the long weekend on actually a pretty nice note, a mix of sun and cloud, but then clouding over, but definitely comfortable, Chris, as we head through the rest of the long weekend and into next week.
Yeah, Saturday especially looks great. We're about 2 weeks away now from a Toronto summertime favorite, the CNE, and preparations are already underway. Today, there was a job fair with thousands of paid and volunteer positions up for grabs for the 18-day-long annual event.
Here for a summer job, I've been looking all over for one, and I think it's a great opportunity. I see the CNE selling for the last 3 weeks of for the summer, so I can get a job opportunity.
You know, I'm very patient with people. I'm just trying to, also for the summer, I'm trying to get a summer job. That's why I'm here, trying to get a job.
Like, I have a lot of experience in event, coordinators and stuff, so I was just hoping, hopefully, with my previous experience, I can, I don't know, just get into the new ones, right? Plus the pay, it's $20, so.
From gate attendants to midway staff, cleaners, food prep, and cashiers, the CNE and its partners generate more than 5,000 jobs every year. Organizers already noticing a larger turnout this year.
We've had over 17,000 people apply online, and so it's quite amazing. We had fantastic turnout last year relative to what everybody else was experiencing with the labor shortages. But this year is truly astounding, as you can see.
Last year, the CNE welcomed 1.5 million visitors. This year, there are some new attractions, including international performers. The X kicks off on August 18th and runs until September 4th. Time for a quick break. We'll be right back. Finally tonight, you may remember a story about a Toronto retail worker who found an ultra-rare collectible. The card was created by a Magic the Gathering collection celebrating the Lord of the Rings. Well, now the owner sold the card to American rapper Post Malone.
My heart was racing, my hands were shaking. It just, I knew. I just couldn't think it could happen to me, you know? It was like, how does someone, just a regular person, have something like this? And I knew, it's life-changing. It happened so fast, I can't even tell you. It was amazing. I knew he was a big fan, and I think the premise was, just to, before it leaves my hands and kind of goes anywhere else, I kind of wanted him to see it, maybe hold it, because I know he'd appreciate it. And he really appreciated it.
Yeah. What a cool moment. Okay, so Post Malone paid $2.4 million US for the card, and he says he has no plans to quit his job, and he will be investing that money. Smart man, and a lucky one at that. That is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night.